Hi, I'm Ipak. In this video, I want to run down all the different ways that you can make bells in Animal Crossing. Really simply, really easy, and I'll just give you my personal opinion on which ones are worth it and which aren't. Now let's just jump right in with the money tree. Now the money tree is basically you can plant a tree that's gonna grow you money every few days. Now you will find this one golden spot in the ground, and if you dig it up with your shovel, then you're gonna get about 1000 bells if I'm not mistaken. Now you can actually insert in that same hole once again the bells. Now, if you're going to place, for example, 1000 bells inside, it's going to be turned into a tree. When it's grown up, it will actually give you money. So actually how it works is each harvest is going to give you 3 times the amount of money that you place in the hole. Now there's a max of 10,000. So what I really advise, if you want to do some money trees, and they are fairly worth it in my opinion, just place 10,000 bells in that hole, and each harvest you're going to get 30,000 back. Get a few money trees. Now you can only go one each day, but still is quite worth it in the long haul. So this does require a little bit of startup cash. So I'm gonna say money tree, just do this whenever you can. But the next method is probably the best one early game. Just grow some non-native fruit on your island. Now, for example, my island was a peach tree island. So that means actually the peaches are basically worth nothing on my island. But your mom will send you on your second day some non-native fruit. So these can be cherries, apples, pears, and just dig a hole and throw these fruits in there and just grow a tree. Now, of course, you can also get these fruits through just the Nook Miles air ticket system. Then you just go visit some islands and then you can easily get some of these fruits. Now, why is it really worth doing? A non-native fruit sells for 500 bells each and are a great way to make some decent early money. Now, I would really advise to just, keep investing those fruits. So keep constantly growing new trees and just keep expanding your orchard. And that way you can get a lot of cash really easily each harvest. So after a few harvests, you're going to have a massive orchard. And in my case, I had about 200,000 bells worth of fruit each harvest. So this is basically my favorite way right now to make some money, though there are a few better ways I want to talk about in a second. Now, when we're actually talking about making money by just growing fruits or vegetables, I really want to talk about pumpkin starts. Now, pumpkins are a great way to make some money. Now, the biggest downside about them is that you can actually only buy them from Nook's Cranny or Leaf around October, so when Halloween is about to come up. But the best part about a pumpkin patch is that you can water it about 2 times and it will actually grow 3 pumpkins each patch. Now, if you actually know that each pumpkin sells for about 350 bells, that really makes it worth it. Now, you can also use them, of course, for the spooky furniture from Halloween, but still, they are a huge money source if you want to do it. Now, if you actually are not playing during October and you want to try this, just check out my guide for time traveling in Animal Crossings, and you can just skip forward or backwards to October, and then you can start doing this. Okay, so this is my last tip, but not my favorite one. I'm not a big fan of this strategy, but it is something that you will see on internet quite often, so I need to talk about it. Now, there is this money-making way with blue roses. Now, blue roses are a big hassle to create. Now, first of all, you actually have to go through 4 steps, I believe, to actually create them yourself. It's by combining different species. Which takes a lot of patience and a lot of time. So if you're not time traveling, this is gonna take a few months. Now, I'm not a big fan of this. I don't have the patience for it, but luckily I had a friend who was willing to give me a few blue roses so that I could start duplicating them on my own, just by placing them next to each other and watering them. And with a little bit of chance, they actually expand slowly. Now, the biggest part why blue roses are kind of worth this hassle is because if you have 10 blue roses, you can actually sell them for 8,000 bells. If you actually combine that by making them into a blue rose wreath, which is a recipe that you still need to get from a villager, which is purely RNG, then you can actually double that value. So you can actually make 10 blue roses, which are worth 8,000. You can actually turn them into a wreath, which sells for about 16,000. I am not a big fan of this strategy because it takes way too much work, but if you actually have a friend who can give you some blue roses, this may be worth doing, but I'm not a big fan. I really prefer to have the non-native fruits, the pumpkin patches, or the money tree more. Okay, so after that, I want to talk about the hot items. Now, Nook's Cranny is going to ask you daily for a few hot items. They are going to buy this for double the value. Now, often this is not really worth the hassle, but sometimes you can get really lucky. There are a few things like, for example, iron frames that go for a few thousands each time. And if you actually get double value for that, that really makes it worth it. If you have the materials for it, and if you don't need it for anything else, this can actually make it really worth it. But you do actually need to get quite lucky with this system, depending on the hot items that Nook's Cranny is going to ask you each day. Now, this one is the best one, but it actually, in my opinion, works best with a friend. Now, this is going to be stock market. Now, each Sunday, you can actually buy stocks. The value somewhere goes between 50 bells and 100, 110 bells, typically in purchase. If they're any higher than 100, I would never buy them. And then you just actually have to hope that each morning and afternoon price actually goes up above what you actually bought it for. Now, sometimes you're gonna get really lucky with this, and sometimes you're gonna actually run with a lot less value for those stocks. So you're actually gonna make some losses. Now, there is purely RNG behind this. Now, there are a lot of websites to estimate when the price is gonna go up or down. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of them. I have tried a few, and I always felt like it was more still a game of chance than any kind of calculations or estimates or stuff like that. But the best way to do this is actually if you have a friend. The best way to do this with a friend is you're gonna buy all the stocks that you can get. So you're just gonna invest your entire Bell's fortune just purely into stocks. You're gonna buy as many as you can carry. Now, while you are buying this, your friend is going to be time traveling. So what he just needs to do is he's going to time travel each morning and afternoon, day after day, until he finds the Nook's Cranny is going to want to buy those stocks for a huge price. So sometimes it's going to be around the 200 bells or just right below it. Or, just you have to get really lucky. It depends on how cheap you can buy them. But if your actual friend can just ensure that you're going to make a profit, then that's a great thing, because then you can just travel to his island through the airport, and then you can just sell all your stocks at his Nook's Cranny, and you're going to make a lot of cash. So if you're playing with a friend, this is probably the best way that you can do it. Now, there is one more thing I want to talk about, and these are Tarantula Islands. Now, if you haven't played a lot since the release of Animal Crossing, Tarantula items were the big thing back then, because you could just completely empty an island and you could just only leave it flat air. So all these stones, trees, everything would be destroyed, and only tarantulas, wharf roaches, and the tiger beetle would spawn back then in April. But honestly, right now that is still an option, but not a valid one, because they actually implemented a few different animals that work through the entire year. So for example, like the hermit crab. The hermit crab is now going to show up a lot on the beach sites, combined with the tiger beetles and the wharf roaches, for example, or other animals, and depending on which month you're going to be playing. Once again, time travel is highly advised for this thing, but tarantulas are going to spawn a lot less. So honestly, tarantula islands are no longer an option in my opinion. You can still try it, but it's not the same as back then. So to run down all the money strategies, once again, money trees are worth it, but they are a slow project. Growing non-native fruits for cash and pumpkin patches are going to be my favorite ones early game, especially if you actually are playing during October or want to time travel to October to get some pumpkin patches. Crafting hot items is purely RNG. You can still check every day, and if it's actually worth your time, you can do it. The blue roses are way too much work for what they are worth. The stalk market is the best strategy that you can do when playing with a friend, or if you really want to gamble, because once again, doing those estimations through websites is going to be really difficult. You can also find people through Reddit, for example, or Discords. You just kind of need to be lucky to find someone like that. And Tarantula Islands are no longer an option. But that's all the money-making strategies that I wanted to talk about for Animal Crossing's New Horizons. Now, if you have any tips of your own, please share them in the comments down below, and you might help someone out, including myself. But guys, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!